This white coloured pressure gauge is just all over the place and doesn't give me the right readings. This is a liquid filled one which will probably do a better job anyway, and just screws in place as the old one did. I'm now adjusting the pressure gauge up to about 2.5 psi. Finally, a milestone of tightening up the nut here and punching it down, because I don't believe I need to take anything off any longer. I'm going to jack the car up and then torque all the rest of the nuts and bolts that are underneath. I've got these two reference manuals, and one is particularly good. This one here not only shows you the part number but gives you all the torque settings as well. And now to torque all the nuts and bolts under the car to the factory specifications. I'm also using a white marker here to mark each nut and bolt to see if they move once I drive it. And once again do the same thing on the driver's side. I'm lining up the wheels the best I can, but we'll take it for a full wheel alignment later. And now moving to the front of the car and then repeating the whole torque process once again. I'm still running the temporary rims for the moment. As soon as I get the wheel alignment done, I'll put on the CD27s. I'm just torquing up the bolts here and the ones on the top mount as well. I'm still waiting for the Chromodora mirrors to come back from chroming, but I've got this aftermarket type of mirror here. Not the best quality, but it will do the job. The base just fits in place like this, and when you screw it in, it holds it in place quite well. Then just 2 screws to hold in the rear vision mirror, and then tightening up the nut that holds in the fibre optic light. I'm installing a temporary dash. This won't be the final one that goes in the car, but I just need it in place so I can make sure everything screws in the right holes and everything works properly. And now attaching all the wires to the back of the instrument cluster, and of course the speedo cable as well. Normally you screw this in from where the wipers are, but I've extended the cable to make it easier for this job. I'm using 2 bolts to hold in the dashboard and just installing some center console so I can make sure all the wires fit and are the right length. This way I know for sure when I fit it with the final center console, it will fit perfectly. I'm also installing the door rubbers because I don't want the door bouncing back and forth, damaging the paintwork. Screwing in the door handle and then installing the safety belt as well. I'm using a factory fitted steering wheel and then tightening up the nut. Now putting in the spring for the horn return button and then the horn button itself. Attaching the hinges for the engine lid and then putting the engine lid in place, just making sure that rubber fits on top of the engine lid there and lifting it up. Tightening up the engine lid to the bracket and then shutting the lid for the first time. I was worried that it would not fit, but as you can see, it fits. And now to reattach the back boot, just very carefully sliding it back onto the brackets there and then tightening it all up. And then lining up the tensioner that holds the boot lid up. The last time I shut the boot and engine lid on this car was almost a year ago now, so it's come a long way since then. I still haven't put the plastic pieces in there, but I'll do that after. So this is my very first test drive, and I'm also taking the car to get the exhaust at the same time. It's at this very point I realise that the clutch friction point has almost gone to the floor. So I'm just deciding if I can turn around or do something here because I'm not sure if I have a clutch anymore. So now I have no choice but to stop, and I start pumping the clutch and I can feel that I've got a friction point again, so I'm going to keep driving. I'm hoping it's not the master cylinder and just some air inside the line. I've also noticed the accelerator is a little bit sticky, and this happened twice on my drive. That was the accelerator getting stuck on. So driving, having to pump the clutch constantly, as well as making sure the accelerator doesn't stick and avoiding all the traffic was a lot of fun, but I finally got there at the end. So this is Hi-Tech Mufflers located in Darlinghurst in Sydney. And this is Lambros, the owner. He's been doing this for over 40 years and has had this shop for quite some time. So Joseph here is taking off the old exhaust system I put in place, and all these mufflers you see here are all made in Australia as well. Using a piece of wire, they get the right angles and they bend the pipe according to the wire. You can see how the wire is put against it to get the angle of the pipe bend. So this piece here is getting expanded so it fits on the end of the extractors. And now to test fit and then do the same procedure for the other pipe. Now that both pipes are attached to the extractors, he's just tacking it in place and then attaching the Y piece. And now attaching the flange onto the Y piece. So with a close-up here, you can see it goes 2 into 1. The muffler we'll be using is a straight through type. Because it's 1978, we don't need a catalytic converter. Now test fitting with the bottom pipe and the muffler in place. I want to run an O2 sensor, so they're drilling a hole here and then welding on the bung. Now to check all the bends are correct for the tailpipe and then welding it together in one piece. Now that all the test fitting is done, it's been welded together. Attaching the exhaust to the flange. And now to weld on the mounts for the springs, I'm using the original factory mount and the original factory springs. And finally a center brace to hold the lot together. So that's it, the exhaust is done. This whole process almost took 3 hours to do. It's quite labor intensive and quite a unique art. But next time I find a leak, I install the O2 sensor and drive the car.